Part 120. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1191. Chapter 1191. Do you like me a little bit? Chu Shenming didn't make any movements or responses. He just stood there, motionless, as if he was frozen in time. I know you think I'm stupid, but I will work hard and try to catch up with you. By the way, I was second in the major last year and got a scholarship. I know I'm not as smart as those people, but I work harder than them. One day, I will stand in the same laboratory as you. I don't know what you think of me. You think I'm shameless and clinging to you. I accept all of this. I try to forget you, and I also try to accept others, but I find that no matter what it is, I can't even do that. Chu Shenming, can you give me a response, even if it is rejection? Respond to me, okay. If you really hate me so much, I can slowly try to disappear from your eyes. At the end of Tanguo's words, his words were filled with a heavy cry. Chu Shenming's heart trembled inexplicably when he heard this. He turned away and saw the girl behind him squatting on the ground, burying her face deeply in her knees, her body shaking violently from crying. Chu Shenming sighed and walked towards Tanguo. Tanguo felt a pair of big hands pat her head twice, and then Chu Shenming's cool and pleasant voice came, "It seems that my previous opinion still stands, you are really stupid." Tanguo raised his head and looked at Chu Shenming with tears in his eyes. I don't know if it was her illusion or something, but she suddenly felt that for a moment, Chu Shenming's eyes were so gentle. Sorry. Tanguo sobbed and lowered her eyes to look at the ground again. She did not dare to see Chu Shenming. Chu Shenming was stunned. What are you sorry for? Tanguo didn't answer, just kept sobbing. Chu Shenming was a little helpless, but didn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to comfort people, and he doesn't know what to do when a girl cries so much in front of him. Chu Shenming dug into his pocket, took out a piece of candy from somewhere, and stuffed it into Tanguo's palm. Tanguo froze when she was suddenly touched by Chu Shenming. Stop crying and eat candy. Chu Shenming organized the words in his mind for a long time, and said the sentence in a tone that he thought was comfort, but actually sounded more like a command. Tanguo held the candy with tears in her eyes. I don't hate you, nor do I dislike you, and you don't need to disappear from me. Tanguo raised his head, his pupils dilated, and looked at Chu Shenming in disbelief. Chu Shenming's face was calm, not deliberately comforting, but rather as if it was true. He really doesn't hate her. If I hate you, why did I give you a notebook? Tanguo thought about it carefully, and it seemed like the same thing. Chu Shenming reached out and patted Tanguo's head again. You are so stupid. Tanguo shrank his neck, vaguely seeming to notice that the corners of Chu Shenming's mouth had just slightly raised. It was only a momentary movement, very short-lived, but Tanguo still noticed it. You, really, don't hate me? Tanguo asked again. Chu Shenming shook his head, feeling helpless. But I keep pestering you. Not considered entangled. She was not lingering around him. Every time he saw her, the girl did not dare to look directly at him. The word tang in her mouth just meant that she had been unrequitedly in love with him for so many years. Then, do you like me a little bit? End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1192. Chapter 1192. At least he's different from others. Small candy. Chu Shenming just spoke, but was interrupted by a sudden sound. It was Yezioksun who came over. Yezioksun had just returned from a date and saw that the girl squatting under the street lamp looked like Tanguo, so he came over to take a look. Chu Shenming and Tanguo looked at Yezioksun at the same time. Yezioksun opened his eyes wide, took 2 steps back in disbelief, and covered his mouth. She read that correctly, right? That's Chu Shenming. Or, is it Chu Shenxiu? No, look carefully, it's still Chu Shenming. Chu Shenming was involved in the development of some drugs in country S. Why was he wearing a military uniform and being under the street lamp with Tanguoer? Hey, why was Tanguoer's eyes red, as if she had cried? Yeziaksun, a novelist, has already imagined a big drama in his mind. Tisk, that's wonderful. I'll write it into the novel when I get back. For the first time in his life, Tanguoer didn't want to see Yeziaksun. Chu Shenming is obviously going to speak soon. Why did she appear at this time? Tanguoer really wanted to vomit blood. What are you doing here so late? Yeziaksun felt that he smelled a hint of gossip. Chu Shenming straightened up and explained with an upright face, I came to see Xia Ying. She was not here. I happened to see Tanguoer and gave her a few notebooks from when I was studying. Yeziaksun? Yeziaksun indeed saw that Tanguoer had a strange skull bag. It was probably sent by Chu Shenming. However, this logic is not right. Why should Xia Ying bring a notebook? When Yeziaksun wanted to ask something else, Chu Shenming continued, I'm leaving first. See you next time. When Chu Shenming said see you next time, he looked at Tanguoer. Tanguoer nodded in confusion and looked at Chu Shenming's back as he turned away and gradually disappeared. Yeziaksun walked to Tanguoer's side, patted Tanguoer's shoulder, and joked, okay, little Candy, I finally got it, my wife has become a mother-in-law after many years. Tanguoer turned away and glared at Yeziaksun. Yeziaksun was stared at inexplicably and said aggrievedly, why are you staring at me? It's all your fault. Just now I asked Chu Shenming if he liked me. As soon as he asked, you came out. Yeziaksun covered his mouth and opened his eyes in surprise, really? Why is she so bad? I can't even forgive myself. Of course, Tanguoer said aggrievedly, I have been waiting for the answer for so long. I'm sorry, little Candy, it's all my fault. If I had known earlier, I would have taken a detour. But Chu Shenming was well dressed in military uniform, and the light was so dark at night that she didn't recognize it was him. Just looking at the back and the skull bag, I felt like Tanguoer had just gone over to take a look. Knowing that the other party was Chu Shenming, how could she run over and make a light bulb? What a sin! Forget it, maybe it's God's will. Tanguoer rested her head on Chu Shenming's skull bag, and the faint fragrance of Chu Shenming's body was still on it. Tanguoer took a deep breath and decided that she would not wash the skull bag again. Hey, Chu Shenming gave you a notebook, so he must be somewhat interesting to you. Yeziaksun analyzed, didn't Xia Ying say that Chu Shenming is a very cold person? He has not had many friends since he was a child. You are a loner. Since he shared his notebook with you, it means that at least in his heart, you are different from other people. Tanguoer blinked, moved, and looked at Yeziaksun. Is it really? Believe me, it's true. Yeziaksun slapped his chest and confirmed. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1193. Chapter 1193. You can't put more emphasis on than younger brother. At night, Tanguoer couldn't sleep while lying on the bed. Picked up the phone and sent a message to Xia Ying. Xia Ying, are you asleep? Xia Ying was waiting for the midnight snack that Yu Lingfeng made for her. After seeing the message, she replied, Little Candy, what's wrong? Tanguoer breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Xia Ying was not asleep yet. Xia Ying was Chu Shenming's cousin and she must know Chu Shenming better than most people. For many things, it is more reliable to ask her. I just met Chu Shenming. Xia Ying almost dropped her phone. Really or not, isn't my 12th cousin going to serve in the military? She also just learned the news that Chu Shenming had withdrawn from the drug research, but he still left some practical plans before leaving. Chu Shenming should have enlisted in the army a long time ago, but because of the nature of his profession, he kept putting it off. But suddenly, for some unknown reason, he spontaneously signed up for military service this year. Had it not been for the fact that the drug research was almost over and success was in sight, the country would definitely not have let him go to the military service easily. I don't know either. He said he came to see you, and then gave me some of his old notebooks. Xia Ying suddenly burst into laughter, smiling happily on the other end of the phone. Yu Lingfeng heard Xia Ying's laughter and leaned out of the kitchen. What's wrong? Xia Ying looked at Yu Lingfeng. I'm chatting with little Candy. Isn't she still asleep at this late hour? She was so excited that she couldn't sleep. Xia Ying joked. Yu Lingfeng didn't say anything and went back to the kitchen to fiddle with things. Not long after, Tang Guo received news from Xia Ying. Tisk tisk tisk, I don't even know that my 12th cousin is coming to see me. He didn't even tell me. Also, if the big turtle dove knew that the notebook he had been holding onto his 12th cousin's lap for a long time was actually packaged and given to you by his 12th cousin, he would definitely be so angry that he would vomit blood. Tang Guo panicked and glanced at the messages he had just sent to Xia Ying and Chu Shenxiu at the same time. Taking a breath of cold air, she replied to Xia Ying, what if he already knows? Tang Guo was still editing the message when Chu Shenxiu's reply popped up, / please tell me that you lied to me. Tang Guo bit her index finger, a little confused. She really didn't think of it at this level before. Just thinking about this, if one of Xia Ying and Chu Shenxiu was awake, they could answer some of her questions. Who knew, neither of them had slept today. Tang Guo stopped replying to Chu Shenxiu, because Xia Ying sent a sentence, well, I can already imagine how ugly the big turtle dove's black face is, ha ha ha. Xia Ying was so happy that she sent several emojis to her. Tang Guo was immediately flooded with Xia Ying's screen. Tang Guo was ashamed. Chu Shenxiu went crazy when he saw that Tang Guo hadn't responded to him. It seemed like it was true. Chu Shenxiu immediately went to Chu Shenming to question him. After bombarding him with several angry emoticons, Chu Shenming slowly replied to him, you stayed up in the middle of the night, and you were pressed into bed by a ghost? Chu Shenming was on his way back to the car when he saw a bunch of silly emoticons sent by Chu Shenxiu, his face expressionless. When Chu Shenxiu saw Chu Shenming's reply, he immediately asked, brother, why do you value over your younger brother so much? I am your biological brother. Brother, you are my brother, you can't do this to me. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1194. Chapter 1194 Little Princess Xingyu. Chu Shenming's slender fingers typed a reply, what's the matter, you don't need to remind me of this thing that I least want to admit. Sometimes Chu Shenming himself was puzzled. If he had known that he would be so annoying to him in the future, why didn't he take the opportunity to beat him up a few times when this idiot was in his belly? Did you give the same notebook as your precious one to little Candy? Not to mention when he was studying, Chu Shenxiu had never touched Chu Shenming's heirlooms. The reason why he said they were heirlooms was because Chu Shenxiu had always joked that Chu Shenming was giving them to him. Prepared for future children. It has been kept privately so that no one can get its hands on it, and it is offered like a treasure. All it takes is placing some incense and tributes in front of it. Chu Shenming raised his eyebrows slightly, why are you so well informed, have you kept in touch with Tang Guo? Still the kind of contact where we talk about everything? Thinking of this, Chu Shenming pursed his lips slightly. Although he remained silent, his face was suddenly filled with solemnity. Isn't this the point? Please answer my question head on. Chu Sensio has collapsed. If he is not given an explanation today, he will, just. I won't sleep anymore. Chu Shenming typed calmly, how big of a deal is it, you stay up late at night chatting with girls, are you not afraid of Xingyu talking about you? Chu Shenming just finished typing the sentence and clicked on the dialog box of Ling Xingyu. I sent the screenshot of what I just said to the other party. After finishing the complaint, Chu Shenming returned to see the news from Chu Sensio without changing his expression. She is in the next room, she has already gone to bed at this time, right? Elder brother. Let me ask you one thing, do you like small candies? My brother is inexplicably so special to a girl. Why doesn't he like her? If you like it, then Chu Sensio won't care. After all, the lifelong events of his brother, a single mother, were much more important than the slight injustice he suffered. Hey, it's really not easy to say that his brother has been a monk for more than 20 years. He thought he was going to become an immortal through cultivation, but he still couldn't help but fall in love with the world. It's true that Tanguoer was so infatuated and loved him so hard for so many years. Chu Shenming stared at the sentence sent by Chu Sensio, and felt an inexplicable tingling sensation in his eyes. Chu Shenming closed his phone and stopped replying to Chu Sensio. Chu Sensio, on the other hand, was still waiting for Chu Shenming's explanation. Suddenly, when his door was opened with a bang, Chu Sensio subconsciously dug under the quilt and stared into the darkness. The dark shadow shouted, "Who is coming? Is it a human or a ghost?" As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the man pressing the light switch, and the room suddenly became brighter. Chu Sensio squinted his eyes uncomfortably, vaguely, as if he saw his little princess Xingyu. However, is the person with messy hair, wearing pajamas and slippers, and rushing in with a fierce look on his face, really his cute and adorable little princess Xingyu? Before Chu Sensio could figure it out, someone had already arrived in front of him and grabbed his ears. The girl's soft and sweet voice came out randomly, "Chu Sensio, you are so capable. You don't even sleep." "I'm chatting with other girls." Chu Sensio screamed in pain, but then he thought about it, how did Xingyu know? "I didn't, it's unfair." Chu Sensio cried out for injustice. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1195. Chapter 1195. There's such a big difference whether you wear makeup or not. No wonder his family usually pays so much attention to their image, and the little princess Xingyu suddenly appeared so slovenly because she thought she was looking for a girl to chat with in the middle of the night. "Then give me your mobile phone." Ling Xingyu put one hand on her waist and spread out the other hand, like Chu Sensio asking for her cell phone. Chu Sensio raised his eyes and saw Ling Xingyu's soft, pink, and white palm spread out in front of him. There was no makeup on his face, but it revealed the unique youth and vitality of a teenage girl. She was originally very beautiful, as beautiful as a lotus. Although she usually wore light makeup, she looked even smaller without makeup at the moment. Her frame is naturally smaller than that of humans, and her lotus-like wrist looks extremely slender, as if it could be broken with just a little force, which adds a touch of affection. "Hey, Ling Xingyu, your hair is very messy." Chu Sensio deliberately changed the topic. Although he had a clear conscience, he was indeed chatting with Tanguoer just now. If he gave her his cell phone, she would definitely feel that he and Tanguoer were having an affair. After all, the note he gave to Tanguoer was still a very intimate little candy. Sure enough, Chu Sensio's words worked. Ling Xingyu frowned, straightened his hair, and then asked Chu Sensio anxiously, "Is it really messy? If I were a bird, I would settle on it." Chu Sensio quietly finished the attack. Ling Xingyu rolled her eyes at Chu Sensio and said, "You are the one who is the best. This princess is naturally beautiful. Even if her hair is messy, she is still beautiful. Besides, if you dare to dislike me, I will throw you into the sea to feed the sharks." Tisk, it turns out there is such a big difference between girls wearing makeup and not wearing makeup. Chu Sensio continued the topic. This sentence successfully hit Ling Xingyu's heart. Ling Xingyu flattened her mouth and immediately felt aggrieved. She stared at Chu Sensio and snorted, "You are talking nonsense, I won't listen to you woolen cloth." Although he had a tough talk, he probably still lacked the confidence. Ling Xingyu turned around and ran away quickly. Chu Sensio breathed a sigh of relief. Sometimes it's a good thing that the daughter-in-law is young and stupid, because she is easy to deceive. After driving away the Buddha, Chu Sensio gritted his teeth and began to settle the score with Chu Shengming. "Brother, you are really unworthy, I actually learned how to complain, you bitches, I look down on you." Chu Shengming glanced lightly and said, "I will learn from you." "What's wrong with me?" Chu Sensio snorted disdainfully. "Brother, is little Candy my future sister-in-law?" Chu Sensio kept pursuing this question, because he found that Chu Shengming seemed to be deliberately avoiding his question. This was interesting. His brother, who was not afraid of anything, actually still had such a side. Are you shy? Yo. When Chu Sensio thought of this, he thought of the shy look on his brother's handsome face, which made him roll on the bed with his belly in laughter. In the next room, Ling Xingyu heard Chu Sensio's laughter and thought it was laughing at her. Her eye circles immediately turned red, and she asked the servant beside her shamelessly, "Is there a big difference between me without makeup and makeup?" "Princess, you look great even without makeup." A servant does not flatter, but speaks the truth. After all, she is known as the most beautiful princess in the royal family. Can her beauty be fake? Ling Xingyu looked at herself in the mirror with a pout, and silently complained, but Chu Sensio said, "I'm not good looking." That old turtle dove, she was angry and decided to ignore him tomorrow. Thank you to the little cutie cuck who doesn't eat sweets. Ovo, 18113, Starry Aries, love, I'm cute, I'm silly, I'm naive. Asterisk : or. Lack asterisk. Kikai, Ming Gloyoran, 13692, Langzi. 13587, Chris my less reward. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1196. Chapter 1196. Chu Shenming's Favor. Brother, are you going to say it or not? I made Xingyu angry just because I was waiting for your answer. Chu Sensio became interested and couldn't sleep until he heard Chu Shenming's answer. Although, as Chu Shenming's biological brother, he had already guessed it, he just wanted to hear his brother admit it himself. His brother fell in love with a girl for the first time in his life, and he still sounded very excited. He was an outsider and was simply worried about his brother. Sleep. Chu Shengming just replied like this and had nothing else to say. Chu Sensio was so angry that he twitched his lips. If you have the time to type these two words, you don't have the time to say yes or no. If so, you only need to type one word. Chu Sensio felt that Chu Shengming had a guilty conscience, so he deliberately avoided it. Come on, he knows what to do. Chu Shengming has to serve in the military for 2 years. During these 2 years, he will stabilize Tanguo and prevent others from taking her away. Brother, give me your game account, and I will help you guard your sister-in-law and prevent others from trying to get her ideas. Chu Sensio decided to take the opportunity to give his brother a blow. You are sick. Chu Sheng returns. Give or not. Otherwise, when you come back from military service, my sister-in-law will run away with someone else, and I will not be responsible. You are overthinking, I don't like her. Are you satisfied with this answer? Chu Sensio was stunned. His brother, denied it? Hang, You want to save face? Chu Shenxiu sent a few more messages, trying to negotiate a price, just to get Chu Shenming's game account. But Chu Shenming ignored him. Tang Guo'er, on the other hand, has been chatting with Xia Ying. Xia Ying was straightforward and told Tang Guo'er without any delay, "Congratulations on your cultivation, my 12th cousin has fallen in love with you." Tang Guo'er's face was hot, her fingertips were trembling as she typed, and thin beads of sweat broke out. How come? She didn't believe it. She doesn't have that confidence either. Chu Shenming never acted like he liked himself from the beginning to the end. He is cold to everyone, including himself. Just because of a few notebooks, Xia Ying concluded that Chu Shenming liked her? This is really a bit hasty. You believe me, right? Xia Ying replied with a smile, recalling everything she had done before. In fact, Chu Shenming seemed to have a different opinion of Tang Guo'er. Although he is also very cold, but subtle, he often has a warmth that is difficult for others to see. If it weren't for her understanding, Xia Ying wouldn't be sure that this was Chu Shenming's liking. Although giving a few notebooks is really nothing to others. But that was Chu Shenming, the Chu Shenming who rejected people thousands of miles away. How can it be the same? Yu Lingfeng brought the prepared supper to Xia Ying. Seeing Xia Ying's eyebrows dancing with excitement, Yu Lingfeng reached out and touched Xia Ying's head twice, and asked, "Why are you so happy to talk?" Xia Ying raised her head and stared at Yu Lingfeng seriously. "Yu Lingfeng, if it were you, would you give anything you treasure to an ordinary friend?" Treasured things, Yu Lingfeng frowned slightly, not understanding what this treasured item referred to. "What are you referring to?" "Well, for example, you have been researching a chip for a long time and you treasure it. Would you give it to a friend of the opposite sex?" This analogy seems inappropriate. For Yu Lingfeng, this doesn't seem to be a difficult problem. Yu Lingfeng had no expression when Xia Ying mentioned ordinary friends just now. When she mentioned friends of the opposite sex, Yu Lingfeng immediately became serious. "I don't have friends of the opposite sex." End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1197. Chapter 1197. You look so shy. Chu Shenming has never had any friends of the opposite sex. On a certain level, he and Yu Lingfeng are somewhat similar. No wonder they can play together. Forget it, I won't beat around the bush with you. Xia Ying waved her hand, not knowing how to continue, so she went straight to the point. "Yu Lingfeng, what do you think? A person with the personality of my 12th cousin suddenly changed his mind. They had been treasured for many years and were said to be left to the next generation. Suddenly, they were given to Tang Guo'er before his military service, and he also lied to Tang Guo'er about giving them to him on the pretext of coming to see me. You said, he gave them to me. Do you like Tang Guo'er?" Xia Ying specifically pressed the record button on WeChat when asking this question. Yu Lingfeng answered without thinking, "Isn't it obvious? Why do you still need to confirm this yourself?" Yu Lingfeng doesn't quite understand. "That's right, I just like it, right?" Yu Lingfeng nodded. Xia Ying sent it to Tang Guo'er, and then typed, "Now even Yu Lingfeng, who is closest to the 12th cousin, has been confirmed. You should believe it now, right?" Yu Lingfeng came over to watch Xia Ying type. "You and Tang Guo'er have been talking about this for so long." "Yes, Tang Guo'er just doesn't believe that her 12th cousin likes her." Xia Ying said and told Yu Lingfeng the whole story. The corners of Yu Lingfeng's lips curved. It will take 2 years to serve in the country's military service. He only went to see Tang Guo'er at this time, which shows that he can't let go. Moreover, he guessed that Tang Guo'er would take the postgraduate entrance examination, so I know Tang Guo'er has always wanted to catch up with him, so I just gave him my reading notes just to help her. Hearing what Yu Lingfeng said, Xia Ying held her face and smiled. "Hey, let's put it this way, my 12th cousin is quite good at flirting with girls. Xia Ying really wanted to know how long Chu Shengming would have to hold back telling Tang Guo that he liked her. He has such a temperament that he can't speak, but he can give. Yu Lingfeng seemed to have thought of something and turned away to look at Xia Ying. Actually, I've seen it a long time ago. Xia Ying was stunned and met Yu Lingfeng's gaze. Early? How early? Why didn't you tell me anything? Yu Lingfeng chuckled, his eyes sparkling. It's easy to tell if you like someone's eyes. Yeah. Xia Ying raised her voice and trailed off, staring at Yu Lingfeng with deep meaning. Didn't you tell that I like you a long time ago? She was actually asked to confess her feelings in the first place. You know everything, why can't you just say it? Thinking about it now, Xia Ying felt that she was really impulsive at that time. She must have been seduced by Yu Lingfeng's beauty, and she was bent over by the beetle, so she couldn't resist the temptation and ran over to eat Yu Lingfeng's tofu while planning to take responsibility. I was just thinking. Yu Lingfeng's smile was gentle and charming. How long can you hold it in? Xia Ying. Why does this sentence sound so familiar? Then when did you know about it? After Xia Ying mentioned this matter, she forgot about Tang Guoer's matter. Tang Guoer was now listening to the voice message from Xia Ying repeatedly. Her face was burning, and her whole body seemed to be boiling. Chu Shengming, do you really like her? Probably, it was when I kissed you for the first time. Xia Ying's face felt hot. Is it so early? She didn't even realize it. Probably seeing Xia Ying's inner thoughts, Yu Lingfeng smiled and said, you look very shy when you are shy. Xia Ying snorted lightly, with an arrogant look on her face. Is it just that you look good when you are shy? Yu Lingfeng kissed the back of Xia Ying's hand, and then mused, from the toes to the hair, all the emotions, anger, sorrow, and joy are beautiful. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1198. Chapter 1198, Take good care of yourself in the army. Tang Guoer sent several more messages to Xia Ying, but Xia Ying never replied to her. Tang Guoer held her head, a little helpless. She didn't know why it was so late now, but when she saw the pile of books in her hand, Tang Guoer thought of Chu Shengming. When she thought of Chu Shengming, Tang Guoer, there was no sleepiness at all. She really wanted to talk to Chu Shengming about something. After all, Chu Shengming was about to enlist in the army. I haven't seen him for 2 years, and tonight is probably my only chance. But when Tang Guoer thought of what Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng said just now, her heart kept beating. She wanted to say something to Chu Shengming, so she picked up her phone, but she didn't know what to send. I obviously typed a series of words, but after careful consideration, I deleted them. I always felt that there was something wrong. Tang Guoer was extremely cautious about every word. Just as Tang Guoer exited the dialogue box, Chu Shengming sent a message. Tang Guoer was so happy that she almost dropped her phone to the ground. Keep the notebook well, I will recycle it in the future. Tang Guoer trembled her fingertips and replied to Chu Shengming, I will. A few minutes later, Chu Shengming sent a message, still not sleeping at this late hour. Tang Guoer pursed her lips and typed, well, something happened, and it has been delayed until now. Go to bed early. Tang Guoer almost screamed. If it weren't for Ye Xiaoxun, who had fallen asleep a long time ago and she didn't want to wake her up, Tang Guoer would have screamed out directly. God knows how long it has been since she chatted with Chu Shengming. Tang Guoer felt excited and sent a series of words, you should go to bed early, it's very late now, good night. Take good care of yourself in the army. Chu Shengming on the other end looked at what Tang Guoer sent, curled his lips slightly, then returned to his original position, closed his phone, and stopped replying. Ye Xiaoxun feels that the time he has spent seeing Tang Guoer has become shorter and shorter these days. Tang Guoer seems to have been given a shot of blood recently. He spends time in the library every day and rarely sees anyone except when he comes back to take a nap. Although it was hard work, Tanguoer always had a smile on his face every time he came back, looking satisfied and expecting. Yeziaksun saw this and asked what happened. Tanguoer just smiled and said no. Yeziaksun didn't understand. According to her guess, Tanguoer's behavior really looked like a young girl embracing spring. Let alone others, Yeziaksun spends all day with Tanguoer. How can he not know what Tanguoer is thinking? Except for Chu Shenming, no one else has ever seen it. It is precisely because of this that Yeziaksun is so confused. On this day, Tanguoer came back from the library and opened the door. Yeziaksun was sitting on her bed, hugging her legs and curling up into a ball. Faintly, Tanguoer seemed to feel that she heard some sobbing. Tanguoer put down her school bag, walked towards Yeziaksun, and asked with concern, "Ziaksun, what's wrong with you?" Yeziaksun raised his head and stared at Tanguoer with red circles. Tanguoer was shocked by Yeziaksun's red eyes. Could it be that Yeziaksun and Sujinsi were at odds with each other? Otherwise, why would Yeziaksun cry so sadly? "Xiaosun, don't cry if you need anything, just tell me directly." Tanguoer sat next to Yeziaksun, put her arm around Yeziaksun's shoulders, and comforted her. Yeziaksun sobbed while talking to Tanguoer about this incident. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1199. Chapter 1199 owes more than 50 million. Yeziaksun just received a call from her mother, saying that it was Yeziaksun's father who was gambling outside, borrowed loan sharks, and owed more than 50 million yuan. Yeziaksun has always known that his father likes gambling, but he usually just gambles for fun. Although he always loses money, Yeziaksun is now rich. He has written several books and sold the copyrights. He does have a lot of money in hand. He is considered rich, so he has always turned a blind eye to his father's affairs. In most cases, they would also warn him not to gamble anymore, and he would respond every time, saying that he would change slowly. Who would have thought that after not seeing each other for a while, he would actually reveal that he owed so much money to someone? When the debt collectors came to the door, when MRSA heard the number of more than 50 million, everyone on the spot was frightened. What on earth did you do to owe so much money? It's really unbelievable. Dadya later admitted that he went to Macau with some friends some time ago and lost more than 9 million there. Later, he borrowed more than 8 million from loan sharks. After losing everything, he ran back in despair. Yeziaksun kept the secret and slowly paid back the money. Who knew that this loan shark's interest rate was so scary? The principal was only over 8 million, but now he said he owed them more than 50 million. When Father Ye heard this number, he almost bumped into the refrigerator. Mother Ye was already in poor health and had been taking expensive medicines to nurse her back to health. However, she never thought that her husband would be so unsatisfactory and owed a lot of debt outside. So in anger, she relapsed and went to the hospital. She is still there today. Under rescue. Yeziaksun heard these things from his aunt. Hearing the news, Yeziaksun almost fainted. More than 50 million. Over the years, part of the money she saved from writing books was used to buy a house to improve her parents' life, and part was used to treat her mother's illness. The total savings in her bank card only amounted to 4,000 won. Where can she find the remaining 10 million? Do you want her to sell the house and car? Yeziaksun was just angry about how he could end up with such a father. He has been cowardly and incompetent all his life, and has never allowed himself and his mother to live a good life. Now, he has destroyed everything she has worked hard for. Her mother was in poor health and was in urgent need of money in the hospital, but those loan sharks took Yeseoksun's father away. Yeseoksun's father was afraid that he would be tortured by them, so he kept saying repeatedly that his daughter was a writer, very rich, and would help him pay back the money. After hearing his words, the group of people called Yeseoksun's phone number and called to threaten Yeseoksun. If they couldn't raise 52 million in 3 days, their father's body would be cut into pieces and fed to the fishes. Yeseoksun was so frightened that the more he thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. While he hated his father for being incompetent, he was still worried about his safety and tried to find a way to advance the royalties from the websites he cooperated with. Tanguoer felt very heavy after listening to Yeseoksun's story. Why do I owe so much money? Has my uncle been blackmailed? Yeseoksun shook his head. His heart had long collapsed and he didn't know what to say now. I don't know, little Candy, I hate him so much. Why would he do such a thing? If my mother is so angry with him, I will definitely not let him go. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1200. Chapter 1200, Being Plotted. Yeseoksun's tone of voice was heavy with tears, and his body was trembling all the time. Tanguoer felt very uncomfortable looking at it. Xiaosun, don't worry. If you are short of money, I can give it to you. No. Yeseoksun looked at Tanguoer with red eyes, sobbing and answering vaguely, I can't ask for your money. What time has it been now? Why do you want to see me outside? Tanguoer was a little helpless, so he said, just think that I lent it to you. When you pay the royalties later, you can take your time, just give me back the land. Yeseoksun's eyes were filled with tears, and he looked at Tanguoer with red eyes, little Candy, thank you. Have you told Xia Ying about this matter? How about you talk to her? I always feel that a huge number of more than 50 million is not so easy to owe. You also said that your father always knows how to play with proportions. They are all very small, and they don't lose much. I suddenly went to Macau, maybe I was tricked by some bad friends. Tanguoer looked solemn and persuaded. Yeseoksun is also skeptical in his heart. There are many luxury casinos in Macau. Let alone more than 50 million, even 100 million can be lost in one night. Rich people like to go there to spend money. If you raise your hand, it will be worth millions. But, Xia Ying is so busy now, will it disturb her? Yeseoksun felt a little unsure. I always feel that something has happened to me and I have to ask Xia Ying to solve everything. This is indeed not a good idea. I always feel a little guilty for troublesome Xia Ying every time. You heard me right. You and Xia Ying have been good friends for so many years. If Xia Ying knew that something big happened to you and didn't tell her, she would think you were alienated from her. Xia Ying's power, she is big and there are many people around her, so it is easy to investigate this matter without her having to take action personally. Yeseoksun was moved by Tang Er, so he called Xia Ying and told her about it. Sure enough, after Xia Ying listened to Yeseoksun's narration, she immediately said, Xiaosun, don't worry, just leave this matter to me. I want to see who did the good deeds. Thank you, Sakura. Yeseoksun cried uncontrollably while holding her cell phone, and Tang Er kept comforting her. Xia Ying just hung up the phone and was very angry. Yu Lingfeng rubbed Xia Ying's head and watched the changes in Xia Ying's expression, then asked, what's wrong? What happened? Xia Ying seems to be very angry. Yu Lingfeng, Xiaoxun's father owes more than 50 million to loan sharks. Xia Ying got angry when she said this. Although Xia Ying has always known the virtue of Xiaoxun's father, no matter how chaotic and incompetent she is, she also knows that her daughter's money is hard-earned. Their family is a happiness built word by Xiaoxun. Only a few years later, he has begun to waste his family. What's wrong with borrowing? If you borrow money at usury, isn't that just jumping into a pit of fire? No matter how stupid Father Yet is, he can't do such a thing, right? Is it possible that he still hopes that one day he will win money to make up for this huge hole of tens of millions? It's simply a fantasy. But now that Father Ye has been taken away, Xia Ying wants to know the truth, but she has no way to tell him. The more I think about it, the more I feel that there is a high probability that Father Ye is being plotted against. End of this chapter.